Good evening, everybody. Yes, we are back in the garage. Right now it is 7:27. We'll be starting shortly. As I always do, while we're waiting, we're just gonna listen to some jazz until 7:30 comes. Then we will go ahead on and get started with tonight's session. As the advertisements has already said, we at the portion of the garage which is called the Grand National Man Wrap Up. But just because we're wrapping up the Grand National, man, does not mean that the garage is closed. Get that, understand that the garage is not closed. We're going to be open for a while. As long as y'all will have me, I'm going to be here bringing you content from the garage. The garage. It's not where perfect men meet. It's where men who need God's help with alignment meet. None of us in the garage is perfect. You don't bring perfect things to the garage. You bring things to the garage that needs to get worked on. And that's my intent, for us to get worked on together. If you believe I have it all together, then you're highly mistaken. Highly mistaken. I want to be as transparent as possible with you all. You know, a lot of times we look at pastors, preachers, teachers as if they have arrived. No, I have not arrived yet, but I'm a lot closer than what I used to be. We thank you for tuning in. I believe it's almost time to get started. And it is 7:30 on the dot. What are we going to do? We're going to get started so I can get out of the way. So I can get out of the way and you can enjoy the rest of your evening. As I stated on last Wednesday, and the advertisement all week long that started on last Friday stated that tonight would be the Grand National Man Wrap Up. The Grand National Man Wrap Up. What it is everything that we done discussed since this book was released in May. It is now August, so we've been at it for a while now. No, I did not give you everything that was in the book. So if you're thinking, okay, well, Michael taught us everything that was in the book. No, I did not give you everything that's in the book. So if you don't have the book, get the book so that you can, uh, get, uh, yes, a portion of stuff that I talked about, but it's so much more. If you understand the car, the concept of the car is so much more. Look, I'm gonna stop all the talking. We're gonna go ahead and get into this lesson so I can get out of the way. So, as I stated earlier, tonight's lesson is called the Grand National Man Wrap Up. And the subtopic is from identity to movement. From identity to movement. That was from the beginning when we first started till last Wednesday night. From identity to movement, the Grand National Man. So what I want to do is hang everything that I discussed tonight on this one thought. That one thought is God hasn't been working on you just so you can know more. Catch that. God hasn't been working on us so that we can know more. He's been working on us so that we can become more effective. That's why God works on us. You take a car to the mechanic shop. You take that car to the mechanic shop so the car can become more effective. And that's what I want us to do, man. Become more effective in everyday life. So look, when we first entered the garage, we did not learn how to fix cars. This was not about working on cars. We came in and we allowed God to work on us. The Grand National was just an illustration that I used because when you think about the car and what made it so special, it wasn't just what you see on the outside of the car, but it was what you did not see. It was on the inside of the car that made it so special. It was what was engineered under the hood. And that's what we've been doing in these sessions. We've been getting under the hood of manhood. Say that again, Michael. Yes, I will. That's what we've been doing during these sessions. We've been getting under the hood of manhood. We talked about identity. We talked about influence. We talked about leadership. We talked about pressure. We talked about submission. We talked about how we see ourselves. And most recently on last Wednesday, we talked about movement. You were built, brother, to move. So do that. And tonight, I'm not going to reteach every lesson. What I'm going to do is I want us to look back and ask, what did we learn? What's working? And where do we go from here? Why? Because eventually, brother, you got to get out of the garage. Where do we go from here? Eventually, you have to get out of the garage. A car was not made you just sit in the garage. Yes, I know those who know me probably say, well, Michael, you have a car just sits in the garage. It don't sit in the garage all the time. I take it out on the weekends. Man, we were not built to just sit in the garage. We were built to get out there. Get out there. Here's a little side note. The area I grew up in, there was always older men who, yes, they had vehicles, but they had one special one that sat in the garage, and they only pulled it out on the weekend. They only pulled it out on a Sunday to take it to church or after church, go cruising in it. And once that was done, they parked it right back in the garage. Yeah, I grew up in that era, so that's a part of me. So look, what we've learned. If I had to take everything we've discussed and reduce it down, I think it comes down to a few things. The first thing it comes down to is know who you are. Brother, you got to know who you are, man. You have to know who you are. I'm not talking about your last name either. I'm not talking about your dad, your grandparents. I'm not talking about the continent that some say we've come from. What I'm talking about is understanding who you are. We started by dealing with identity. Why? Why did we start with dealing with identity? Because you can have a job, you can make money, you can have a family, you can look successful and still not know who you are. To be honest, it's a lot of men like that today. A lot of men who are successful, a lot of men who have awesome jobs, a lot of men who have awesome families. Their relationship with their wife and their kids is amazing, but they're struggling because they don't know who they are. Man, we wrestle with identity. And it's dangerous because when a man doesn't know who he is, he'll spend his life allowing other people to tell him who he is. That's why identity matters. Your identity matters, brother. Why? Because your identity came from God. Take it back to Genesis. Go back to the beginning. Genesis 1:26. The New Living Translation said, then God said, who said? Then God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us. That's the identity I'm talking about. Once again, I'm not talking about your last name. My last name is Jackson, but it goes back further than Jackson. It goes back to God. Look, second, what's influencing you? Watch what's influencing you. We learned that you can be the same man you are today, but with a different output. How can it happen? Well, you can put the same man under a different influence, and you're going to get a different result from him. That's why we had to ask ourselves, what's getting inside of you? What are you allowing to get on the inside of you? What are you allowing to get on the inside of you? That's why we had to ask ourselves this question. What am I listening to? Am I listening to the wrong people? Am I listening to the wrong music? Our culture talks about it all the time when it comes to rap music. Some may feel differently, but what you listen to can control you. Who you hang around can control you. What are you watching? The wrong thing that you watch can shape the way you think, just like the wrong thing you listen to can shape the way you think. So, what are you watching? What are you allowing yourself to watch? Is it healthy or is it unhealthy? Why? Because eventually, what you hang around will start to influence you. What you listen to will start to influence you, and it'll show up in everything you do. So, the question is, who's supposed to be influencing you? Who's supposed to, men, who is supposed to be influencing us? Well, let's go back to Genesis. Genesis 2 and 7. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground. What did he do after he formed the man? He breathed the breath of life into man's nostrils, and the man became a living person. The breath of life was influence. What are you saying, Michael? What Michael is saying is this. If God breathed the breath of life into man's nostrils, and man became a living being, then man, before the sin, before the fall, was influenced by the very thing that was on the inside of him. The very Spirit of God was man's influence. So, if the very Spirit of God was given to man for man to come alive, then mankind, humanity needs the Spirit of God in order to function the way God designed him to function. If it's not the Spirit of God that's influencing you, then you got the wrong spirit, brother. You got the wrong spirit. If it's not the Spirit of God influencing you, it's the wrong spirit. Third, take responsibility. We dealt with passivity. Men have come to the point where we have become passive on a lot of issues when we should not. Why do we do it? We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want no confrontation. We want to keep everything smooth. So we become passive. But what you become passive with is not what you're supposed to become passive with. Adam was right there. Eve ate and he ate. He became passive. A man can have ability and still go nowhere because he's sitting behind the wheel, refusing to drive. Men, you cannot sit behind the wheel and refuse to drive. Nah, you can't do that. You were not built to sit behind the wheel and refuse to drive. God did not tell us to control everybody, but he did tell us to take responsibility for ourselves and what he entrusted us with. Where have you failed to take responsibility at? In your family? On your job? In your relationships with everybody? Where have you failed to take responsibility at? Check this out. Genesis 3 and 12. The man replied, "It was the woman you gave me who gave me the fruit, and I ate it." What did Adam say? He said, "Look, God, it was the woman that you gave me. I didn't pick her. You gave her to me. She gave me the fruit. I ate." But what did God tell Adam? The day that you eat, you shall surely die. Adam had a responsibility, but he became passive. Men, you cannot become passive. After everything that we went through, You cannot wait till right now to become passive. If you've been listening to me, you can't do it. Becoming passive is expensive. You can't do it, man. You got to move on. Fourth, learn how to learn how to use pressure. We learned how to use pressure. This became one of my favorite Grand National illustrations. Why? Because the turbocharger didn't just simply run from pressure; it used it. And sometimes we sometimes brothers we run from pressure. We don't want it. We don't have to deal with it. We learn what pressure reveals. We learn that pressure produces, and we also learn most of all that pressure propels you. Sometimes you got to take on pressure head on because it may be the very thing that God is using to propel you to where He wants you in life. So stop assuming that every uncomfortable season means that something has gone wrong. Sometimes God is developing something in you that comfort never could produce. I hope you remember that from that lesson. Sometimes God is developing something in us that comfort could never produce. Grand National couldn't stay comfortable and produce what Beard wanted it to produce. It had to get out there on the pavement. It had to receive the very pressure that that will cause most cars to shut down. That same pressure is what the Grand National used to propel it down the line. So fifth, we talked about staying under the right authority. We learned from the centurion. The centurion said, I am a man under authority. Why did he point that out? He said, Jesus, I understand you. He said, Jesus, I understand you. How do I understand you? Because I'm a man under authority. And I'm a man under authority. And also I'm a man of authority. When I say go, they go. When I say stay, they stay. When I say stand up, they stand up. When I say sit down, they sit down. So Jesus, all I need for you to do is speak the word. Staying under the right authority isn't weakness. It's not. It's alignment. How could the centurion become a man of authority? How did he become a man of authority? Because he aligned himself with authority. Oh, look, sometimes we get on these jobs and we don't want to submit to no one. And we wonder why we're still stuck in the same position we've been in for the last 40 some years. We don't want to submit. Look, you have to submit to someone. And if you submit to God, God also says that we must submit to authority. Wow. When you submit to authority, God will move you. God will exalt you. God will raise you up. Why? Because you submitted to authority. And when a man submits himself to God, he positions himself to operate according to God's design. That's it right there. When a man submits himself to God, he positions himself to operate according to God's design. So the next point I want to bring out, how does everything that we discussed, these last 5 steps, how does that build a grand national man? Well, after all these weeks, what exactly is a grand national man? He's not a perfect man. I told you earlier in the beginning, we're not perfect men. He's not a man who never struggled. He's not a man that has every answer. I do not have every answer. I know where to find them. A grand national man is a man who is becoming increasingly aligned with the way God designed him. That's what a grand national man is. A grand national man is a man who is becoming increasingly aligned with the way God designed him. The grand national man, he knows who he is. The grand national man watches what influences him. The grand national man accepts responsibility. The Grand National man allows pressure to develop him instead of destroying him. The Grand National man lives under God's authority. The Grand National man learned to see himself the way God sees him. Then what does he do? He moves. That's progression. It starts with influence. It starts with identity. It starts with from identity to influence, from influence to responsibility, from responsibility to pressure, from pressure to alignment, from alignment to confidence, confidence to movement. Brothers, that's where we should be at right now. We should be right there on movement. That's what we've been building. That's what we've been building on the inside of men. Every single Wednesday that I come before you, we've been building men who are ready to move. Come on, brothers. Ready to move. So what's working? My next point. And this is where I don't want tonight just to be about me talking. Because the real measure of the garage isn't whether or not any of these lessons were good. If you see me looking down, I'm doing something with my hand. I got my mug and I got me some tea. So that's what I'm doing. I don't want every single lesson that I presented to you just for you just to say, man, that was a good lesson. I enjoyed the lesson. It has to be more than that. It has to be measured by, did anything change within you? Did you become more intentional because of each lesson? Did you change something in your marriage because of the lessons? Did you change in how you father because of these lessons? Did something change in you to how you respond to pressure? Did you recognize something about yourself that needed God? And did you finally move on something you've been sitting on? Because if all we did is met every Wednesday night at 7:30 and nothing changed, then we just had another meeting. If you have meetings, you know what I'm talking about. We have meetings for meetings for meetings for meetings and another meeting. Nothing actually changes. We don't want just another meeting. I want to see y'all move, brother. I gotta see you move. The garage isn't working when the garage is working when what we discuss Wednesday night starts to show up on Thursday morning. That's how you can measure the garage of whether or not it's working in your life. When what we discuss on Wednesday show up on Thursday morning. It may not show up on Thursday. It may show up on Friday. But when you're going through your day and pressure starts to build up, say, hold up, man. I can't respond to pressure the way that I'm used to responding to it. I got to do something different. Look, I got 10 minutes. I'm going to get out of your way. So what's next out of the garage? Or brothers? Eventually, you got to leave the garage, as I stated earlier. Grand National wasn't built just to sit somewhere looking good. It was built to move. It was built to perform. It was built to produce. And that's the same that's true for us. We talked about identity long enough. We talked about influence long enough. We've talked about leadership. We talked about pressure. We talked about submission. We talked about how we see ourselves. Now, what are you going to do with it, brother? What you going to do with it? Take it home. Become a better husband. Become a more present father. Become a man of integrity at work. Become more dependable, more disciplined. Become somebody another man can follow. Become the influence in your community. Let me take a step back. Become somebody another man can follow, not just another man, but become somebody your own child can follow. Because most of us who have boys know that your boy would do the exact same thing that you've done. Become somebody that your son can proudly follow. So maybe now God wants you to use what we've learned to help somebody else. And when that happens, that's influence. When that happens, that is influence. Well, look, here's my final challenge. The Grand National did not become legendary because of what somebody said was under the hood. Eventually, somebody had to put that car on the road, and that's when it became legendary. It did not become legendary sitting in the garage. It did not become legendary because of engineering, looking at blueprints. The Grand National became legendary when it got out on the pavement. And brother, that's what you have to do. When you have the right influence on the inside of you, when you are influenced by God's Spirit, when you get out on the pavement, that's when you're going to become legendary. Because men are going to see something different in you. They're going to see how you respond to pressure. They're going to see how you handle your family. They're going to see how you handle your job. And when they see that, they're going to wonder what's influencing you. And that's where we are. We've been in the garage for a while now. We've been under the hood. God has showed us some things about ourselves. He's adjusted some things about you. He's revealed a whole lot about us. I would say that for most of us, for all of us, that God has revealed a whole lot of stuff about all of us. He's challenged us in some areas. But what now? So the question is, what are you going to do with what God has built in you? Bro, what are you going to do with what God has built in you? I stated earlier, you got to move. You got to move. So look, I have exactly 5 minutes left. And what I did tonight was I just wrapped up the Grand National Man. I wrapped up every session that we had since the beginning, since May. I wrapped it up in 30 minutes. If you've been tuning in since we began, I greatly appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your Wednesday evening with me. And I hope that you enjoyed these lessons. But look, before we close tonight, I need your help with something. Tonight brings us to the end of the Grand National Man book. That's what tonight does. Brings us to the end of the Grand National Man book. But it does not mean that the garage is closing. Brother, we are here and we are moving on. So look, I need your favor. I need you to do me a favor. I said I need your favor. We spent the past few weeks talking about identity, influence, leadership, pressure, submission, and what it actually means to move in the purpose God designed for us. So now I want to hear from you. What are some things that you're dealing with that you would like to hear us talk about? Put it in the comment section. I'll give everyone until at least Saturday, because I don't want the comments to keep coming and I get overwhelmed. But put in the comment section, what should the garage talk about next? That's the question for tonight. Put in the comment section. It could be about marriage. It could be about fatherhood. It can be about anger. It can be about temptation. It can be about relationships. It can be about purpose. It can be about work, mental pressure, anything. Put it in the comment section. Give me some time to work on it. And that's what we're going to present to you next. Look, don't tell me what sounds like a good Bible study lesson. Don't do that. Okay? Give me a topic and I'm going to go to the scriptures and build a lesson from that based on the scriptures. But don't just give me what sounds like a good Bible study lesson. I need you to be open with me and be transparent with me so that we could get aligned properly. Because if the garage is really going to get men anywhere in life, we have to tackle all subjects. And that's my intent to do, tackle all subjects. Send me your ideas. As I stated earlier, put them in the comment section. If you don't want everybody to see them, instant message me. If you don't want to instant message me, you have my number, give me a call, text me, and I will look over each one. And what we would do is go with the most picked one. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go with the most picked lesson, and then we'll build from there. So look, once again, I appreciate your patience and your time with me. I appreciate you on tonight. I look forward to your comments. We started out in the garage saying, well, look, I got to get my wife her garage back, but I'm not in the garage. So I don't have to say that tonight. But what I am going to say is I'm going to go back and spend some time with my wife before it's my bedtime. Look, everyone, enjoyed you. Hope you enjoyed me. Be blessed. We'll see you on, let me do this. When you send me your comments, give me some time to get the lesson together. So we may not come back with a lesson on next Wednesday. It'll be the following Wednesday. But what I'll do is let everybody know what we're going to move on to, and I'll keep you updated on that. So once again, let me get out of here. Let me let you go. You have a good night. Peace.